The Renaissance, a period of unparalleled creativity, the rebirth of classical knowledge, and the age of some of the most celebrated artists and thinkers in history. We often picture this era as a golden age of art, science, and culture, where great minds like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael brought the world out of the darkness of the Middle Ages and into the light of modernity. But what if I told you that beneath the surface of this cultural bloom, there was a much darker, more sinister side? Today, we're peeling back the layers of the Renaissance to reveal the secrets, scandals, and intrigues that history books often overlook. Welcome to the dark side of the Renaissance, Secrets and Scandals. Our journey into the shadowy side of the Renaissance begins with one of its most powerful families, the Medici of Florence. The Medici were not just patrons of the arts, they were master manipulators, political puppeteers, and ruthless in their pursuit of power. At the heart of their power was Cosimo de' Medici, known as Cosimo the Elder, who managed to control Florence from behind the scenes, using his vast wealth to influence elections and bribe officials. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The Medici were embroiled in constant political warfare with rival families, most notably the Pazzi. The rivalry culminated in the infamous Pazzi conspiracy of 1478, where members of the Pazzi family attempted to assassinate Lorenzo de' Medici, also known as Lorenzo the Magnificent, and his brother Giuliano during a mass in Florence's cathedral. While Lorenzo survived, Giuliano did not, and the Medici's revenge was swift and brutal. The conspirators were hunted down, tortured, and executed in public, their bodies displayed as a warning to others. Florence may have been the cradle of Renaissance art, but it was also a city drenched in blood and power struggles. Next, we move to Rome, where the Renaissance papacy became synonymous with corruption, nepotism, and scandal. The popes of the Renaissance were often more concerned with their own wealth and power than with spiritual matters. Take Pope Alexander VI, born Rodrigo Borgia, for example. His papacy was marred by accusations of bribery, simony, and the open acknowledgement of his illegitimate children, whom he placed in powerful positions across Europe. His daughter, Lucrezia Borgia, became a symbol of the era's moral decay, often rumored to be involved in incestuous relationships and poisonings, although many of these stories are likely exaggerated. Then, there was Pope Leo X, a member of the Medici family, who famously said, "Since God has given us the papacy, let us enjoy it." And enjoy it he did, spending lavishly on art, architecture, and personal indulgences, while the church's coffers were drained. His extravagance and the sale of indulgences to finance St. Peter's Basilica directly contributed to the rise of Martin Luther and the Protestant Reformation, a movement that would forever change the religious landscape of Europe. The Renaissance popes turned the Vatican into a center of luxury and vice, leaving a legacy of corruption that would tarnish the church for centuries. The artist as spy and assassin. The Renaissance was undoubtedly an era of great art, but it was also a time when the line between artist, scientist, and spy was often blurred. Leonardo da Vinci, the quintessential Renaissance man, was not just a painter and inventor, he was also a military engineer, and some believe, a spy. Leonardo was employed by several powerful rulers, including the notorious Cesare Borgia, the son of Pope Alexander VI. As Borgia's military engineer, Leonardo designed war machines, fortifications, and even possibly acted as an intelligence gatherer. His sketchbooks are filled with designs for weapons of war, cannons, tanks, and even a prototype for a machine gun. Was Leonardo just a man of science, or was he also a tool of war, using his genius for more sinister purposes? Michelangelo, too, found himself embroiled in political intrigue. In 1529, during the siege of Florence, he was appointed as the city's director of fortifications. While he is celebrated for his work on the Sistine Chapel, few know that he also designed some of the city's defenses during one of its most turbulent periods. The Renaissance artists we revere today were often deeply involved in the darker aspects of their society, where art and war, creation and destruction, walked hand in hand. As Europe flourished during the Renaissance, it also began to cast its eyes beyond its borders, leading to the Age of Exploration. But this period of discovery was not just about new trade routes and exotic goods. it was also about conquest, exploitation, and the brutal subjugation of indigenous peoples. The Spanish and Portuguese explorers, funded by monarchs who were eager to expand their empires and fill their treasuries with gold, embarked on expeditions to the New World. The consequences were devastating. The indigenous populations of the Americas were decimated by violence, enslavement, and disease brought by the Europeans. Hernán Cortés and Francisco Pizarro are two names that stand out. Conquistadors who brought down entire civilizations, like the Aztecs and the Incas, in their quest for wealth and glory. The wealth extracted from the New World fueled the Renaissance in Europe, financing the grandiose projects and luxuries of the time. However, it came at an unimaginable cost to the native populations, whose cultures were destroyed and whose lands were seized. The Renaissance was not just a rebirth of classical knowledge, it was also a time of unprecedented exploitation and brutality, hidden behind the veil of progress. While the Renaissance was an age of enlightenment, it was also a time when superstition and fear ran rampant, leading to one of the most horrifying chapters in European history, the witch hunts. As the Renaissance spread ideas of humanism and science, it also stoked fears of the unknown, leading to a deadly combination of ignorance and fanaticism. Women, particularly those who were poor, elderly, or simply different, were often the targets of accusations of witchcraft. In towns and villages across Europe, trials were held where the accused were subjected to brutal interrogations and tortured until they confessed to crimes they never committed. The infamous Malleus Maleficarum, a handbook for witch hunters, was published in 1487 and became the blueprint for these persecutions. Tens of thousands of people, mostly women, were executed in the name of purging society of witches. These witch hunts were not isolated events, but were part of a broader cultural and religious upheaval that swept through Europe during the Renaissance. They serve as a stark reminder that even in times of great intellectual progress, fear and superstition can lead to unimaginable cruelty. The dark side of patronage. Art flourished during the Renaissance thanks to the system of patronage, where wealthy individuals and families, like the Medici, the Sforza, and the Borgia, sponsored artists, musicians, and architects. However, this patronage often came with a dark side. Artists were frequently at the mercy of their patrons, forced to create works that glorified the power and wealth of those who commissioned them, rather than expressing their own ideas. Michelangelo, for example, was coerced into painting the Sistine Chapel ceiling by Pope Julius II, despite his reluctance. The Pope, known as the Warrior Pope, was as much a soldier as a spiritual leader, and he used art to bolster his image and authority. But it wasn't just the patrons who wielded power. Artists also engaged in their own intrigues, forming rivalries and alliances to secure commissions. The world of Renaissance art was as much about politics as it was about creativity, with artists navigating a complex web of power, influence, and corruption. In this world, art was both a tool and a weapon, used to manipulate, control, and assert dominance in a society where appearance and reputation were everything. The Renaissance is often celebrated as a period of great beauty, innovation, and progress. But as we've uncovered today, it was also an era marked by darkness, intrigue, and brutality. The same hands that created some of the most beautiful works of art were also involved in the darker machinations of power, corruption, and violence. As we admire the masterpieces of the Renaissance, it's important to remember that they were born in a world as complex and flawed as our own, a world where light and shadow coexisted in constant tension. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the darker side of the Renaissance. If you found this video enlightening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives into the hidden stories of history. And as always, let us know in the comments what topics you'd like us to explore next. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep uncovering the secrets of the past.